This is the work session of October 15th. We're live, guys.
So do you have a... How do you... I'm not sure. The work session of October 15th is going to start at approximately, 4:58 p.m. But the first thing we're going to do is honor all of the Celine Twirlettes. Clerk Rowe, do you have a proclamation?
I have a proclamation honoring the 2019 Celine Twirlettes Baton Twirling Team. And whereas the Celine Twirlettes Baton Twirling Team competed in the National Baton Twirling Association's Grand National Baton Twirling Championships and earned a position on the USA's World Team 2020, and whereas 24 Michigan baton twirlers will compete for the gold medal at the Olympics of World Baton Twirling Championships on Team USA to be held in the Netherlands in April of 2020, which is a tremendous honor for the team and the entire community. And whereas the Celine Twirlettes Nationals team clinched their spot by winning the Grand National Show Corps Championship. During the national title competition, the team swept all specialty awards, including teamwork, execution, movement, and production. This is their 21st national title and consecutive year as the overall Grand National Champions. And whereas only a few athletes from Michigan have earned placements on Team USA, this is the first time a team from Michigan has been selected to compete in the World Championships. And whereas the Celine Twirlettes Nationals team representing the USA is comprised of 24 girls ages 11 to 20, twirling experience of ranges from 4 to 15 years. Team members represent the communities of Saline, Ann Arbor, Grass Lake, Ypsilanti, Belleville, Milan, Howell, Beverly Hills, Birmingham, Davison, and Sylvania, Ohio. Now, therefore, be it resolved and proclaimed, the Charter Township Ypsilanti Board of Trustees, on behalf of all of our residents, wishes to recognize, applaud, and celebrate the Celine Twirlettes Baton Twirling Team on their history-making season. Go Twirlettes, dated and signed this 15th day of October 2019 by the Ypsilanti Township Board. So I'm going to come up and get your proclamations. You're going to help me get them? They're not too strong. We can just give them to them. We're just give them out.
Want to go down and...
Yeah, we'll go down and hand them out and get a picture with the twirler. Yeah, they can come on over here. Who are the ones that run the Ypsilanti Township? Some are the choir concert. Yeah, all right. Oh, that was the concert, yeah. So where do you live at?
I live right down the road on Parkland Drive.
Oh, okay.
Right off of Martin.
How many are 16? How many like extra money? We're hiring election inspectors. So if you're interested, you make about 16 and over. You make about $400 a day. If you're interested. Whitetown.org.
Oh, yeah, do you just really want what's not good? I mean, when you were talking.
You can just give them to her.
All right, I'll just give it.
Yeah, I got one for everybody.
Are we going to hide behind them? I'm doing right.
You're ready for election. Money in the dollar. We have election in March. So give you extra $400.
All right. So we're going to get right into the budget reviews. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Go Twirlers. The first item for the budget review is Fund 230 Recreation. Oh, we used to have a little podium there.
What happened? Oh, it's over there, the podium.
Real nice, guys, real nice.
He only does it if it's a ladder on the back of a truck.
And Mike, you're going to, oh, okay. Okay, Ann. All right.
Hello. Whew. That thing is loud, right?
I can't hear.
Are we ready to start?
Let's go.
All right, our recreation budget. Before we get started, I just want to mention that we're excited at the Recreation Department. We've had some changes. We've lost a mic, but then we've gained a mic. So we're excited to have Mike Hoffmeister as part of our team at the Recreation Department and the Residential Services Department. He's really an asset to us. We've been examining internally our department. Mike has been meeting with us and our staff, so we're excited about some new changes and new hires that'll be coming in with fresh ideas and everything. With that in mind, a few of the things that we talked about in some of our meetings are making ourselves more visible, the Recreation Department focusing on marketing, some sponsorships, things like that, establishing relationships in the community. We've started doing some of that this fall as well. Our staff went into the schools to some of the PTO meetings this fall and promoted some of our programs. Also, with the winter tax bill that's coming up, we're going to be able to announce some of our programs in there. I don't know if it's going to be a one-page flyer or what that'll look like, but we will be allowed to advertise our programs in there for November, in the November edition, so that would be December, January programs that we have coming up. We had a couple successful program events this summer with Rosie the Riveter and the wakeboard tournament. About $7,000. Robin might have the exact figures between the two programs that we brought in. So we were excited to see new things like that, and we're looking forward to doing more of that this summer in our parks and expanding on that as well. Some of the things we talked about as far as marketing is how we can increase awareness of our program, where or how we can market better. Are there programs we might need to eliminate because they become stagnant and are not growing? So those are just some of the things that we're looking at when we're talking about budgeting and using the best resources that we can. Those were the main things that I wanted to mention before we get started. So if you have any questions for me or Mike, we're ready.
Angela, is the mobile app up and operating yet that we approved? Was going to make it a lot easier too for folks to stand.
Right, that is still in the works. I'm glad you brought that up. Our recreation software, Civic Plus, is the software company. Civic Rec, more specifically, is the group that will be working with us. They're actually coming out November 13th and 14th to do an on-site training with us and get us up and going.
Okay.
So that's still in the works.
Okay.
There was one thing I wanted to point out also. One of the line items I wanted to make sure that you all were aware, it was the line item 230751000707775. That was our wages for parks. We wanted to make sure it didn't reflect a decrease. Somewhere I thought it said a decrease, but we are actually need to keep that as it is, because we were able to save on wages this summer due to Loon Feather being closed an extensive amount of time and being able to cut back on staff on rainy days and things like that. But had we been open the whole summer, we probably would have exceeded that budget. So we want to make sure that line item is not decreased. 230-751-000-707-775. That was the park expenditures.
Do we have questions or do a presentation?
Yeah, and on that line item, that was for the park rangers and park attendants that actually worked the booth.
Yes.
Based on expenditures, it was reduced, but we realized that that's because Loon Feather was closed.
Okay, thank you.
Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So that's the only correction to the
Yes,
proposed?
that's the only correction.
Okay. Clerk Rowe, did you have a question?
I just overall, just general concern that we're budgeting revenues higher than what it looks like we're going to have almost in every line item for next year. So that's always a major issue for me. I always think you should budget low, be conservative. So I am concerned about that. And then
Which,
just all the revenues and stuff, they're pretty much, we're budgeting, when you look at the activity through September and you look at what was budgeted last year, almost, it appears, and I think that you even say that we may have to adjust the revenues, to me, I just adjust the revenues and make your expenditures, but that's my preference for budgeting, is a conservative budget, not one that's thinking, well, we may get those, even though we didn't get them last year, most of them. Then I raised this issue last year, and I don't know
should we talk about that before you move on to someone?
It's just a kind of general, it's a philosophy, really.
Yeah.
And I know the golf course did the same thing. So.
Well, if you look at your revenue, it's, for example, the adult sports, you took in 16,600, but you only budgeted 16,000, so that's a good number. The actual is
Well, the actual says 13,686 unless you're something happening right now in the fall.
Well, we distributed the new updated numbers, I don't know.
Oh.
This says
The
6.
one that's laying in front of us? I thought it was, I just gave you extra. Oh, I used the old one. Oh. Okay.
Are you talking about
So I got the one.
630?
Adult sports, yeah.
000?
Yeah, so the actual year-to-date. So when we do the budget, it originally comes out, we get numbers for July, and now for this, we gave updated numbers so people can see the revenue and expenditure. So it gives you a little bit better picture. And then they reduced only by 1,000 youth sports. Year-to-date, you have 56,000, and you budgeted 69,800.
Yes, we still anticipate more revenue coming in for youth sports. We still have the basketball program that starts in January. People typically sign up for that in December.
Okay.
So we
get
still
the cash in
anticipate.
December?
Yes, we still take some in January as well, but we get a lot of it in December.
Would that, I'm sorry, maybe go ahead, I'm asking questions.
Is the same true with dance?
With dance,
You're at 33,863, and
yes, dance, they would sign up for the second half that starts in January. They can pay in December. They have until January to
Okay.
pay, but they can pay in December as well. So there may be more coming in there. And also dance costumes, money will start coming in as well in November.
And do you adjust your expenditures
Yes.
according to?
We definitely adjust according to what's
the
coming
amount of
in.
people? Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, what, Clerk Rowe?
My only other thing at reviewing your budget was that, and I brought this up last year, and I didn't know if anyone actually researched it, but it's even more evident unless the numbers changed, and let me just look real fast. No, they didn't. If I figured out right, between the gate fees that we collect and the amount of money we spend, we actually only clear about $4,000. And I know that's a huge amount of work. And I'm just wondering, I had mentioned last year, the state park system went to a system where they didn't have folks at the gates. There was notices sent out, and it's posted at the parks that you are obligated to buy your pass. And if a ranger stops you, you'll either have to pay, in the state system, you have to pay on the spot, or you actually have to leave the park. And I just didn't know if anyone, I know how much work it goes to scheduling all those, and is that really worth it for $4,000? Or maybe we should just have people on the gates at the time that they're busy, because I personally think that it's probably not worth that amount of time that I know that Robin puts in, and all the hiring that goes in, and then the scheduling that goes on to only clear. And there may be even other line items that are charged to it, but I just saw the one that said shirts that you have to buy and everything, because it looked like there's like $6,000, but by the time you do the expenditures that you do, and I know that doesn't even include how much we spend on testing, I don't think drug testing's in here, because I think that's an HR, so we may not even break even on that. So anyways, I didn't know if anyone looked at that, or if that's something we can seriously look at before we open.
Yeah, I'm not sure if
'Cause
that's
I did bring
been-
that up last year.
Okay, I'm not sure if that's been looked at, but I know as far as staffing the gates, Robin does look at that as far as if there's a rental at a park, she'll make sure that one is staffed. If we're running short staff for some reason, we'll make sure the ones are staffed that have a rental coming up, so we collect those gate fees.
Yeah, Mike Hoffmeister, RSD Director. I'm sorry to step in, Angie. Just a couple comments on that. We are also ensuring or hoping to send more park rentals towards parks that have gate attendants that Robin is staffing, so that can help maybe boost some of those revenues. The other thing that we're talking about is exploring the idea of utilizing credit cards at our gatehouses as well with the new software program. So that would allow us to not turn people away when they have only a credit card, hence bringing in more revenue potentially at our gates as well. So that number, that $4,000 number could go up in the future if we're allowed to and able to accept credit cards for our gate entries.
I just think it would be worthwhile for all of us just to take somebody to put together a spreadsheet that shows all the revenue, whether it's rentals, what all those revenues are, and then what all of our expenditures are in terms of buying shirts, doing, tests, the drug testing, all that, and just to see, is it really worth the tremendous amount of time, and is there another way that we could, and look at the state park system?
Sure. And I don't mean to interrupt again, but I will add that Robin does a really good job of tracking her expenses on a day-by-day basis, revenues day by day, so kudos to her. And we can rely on her and her skills and what she's done for that kind of research.
Great, thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Trustee Rowe.
Thank you. I see, and I'm just going to go to the last six numbers because it's a lot of numbers
Okay.
there. 675006, the senior grant would look like it, yeah, I see that. Had a private grantor in 2018, but it doesn't look like there's anything in 2019. So was that a one-time?
We don't put that one in the budget because we
Okay.
never know if we're going to actually receive it. We apply for it every year.
Yeah.
But we don't know if we'll receive it or not.
Totally
We will
makes-
apply again.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, it was another question. Hold on, just need to find it. I'll go ahead and, yes, it is. It was about the 50 and beyond programs.
Okay.
It was, I think it was a grant that's with those programs that it said inside the notes that may not be received. Yeah.
That's the same one that
It's the same
I
one?
mentioned here.
Okay, it's the same one. Okay,
Yes.
got you. Okay. So my question would be, if for some reason that's not received, how would those monies be made up? Would it be basically made up somewhere else in the budget? if it's not that grant's not received again?
Those would not need to be made up. It's
Okay.
usually a project that's above anything
Okay.
in the budget. It's
Got
something
you.
that we come up with extra that can be done. So
Okay.
it's not like we're missing out on anything if we don't receive that.
Right.
It's just a bonus to have it.
It's a bonus, so it's actually something on top of something.
Yes,
Okay.
and we usually apply for that, I believe, in September, and we
Okay.
find out a month or so after that whether we receive it or not.
Right, yeah, because I know the 50 and beyond programs, that's something that's very popular with the rec center.
Yes.
So I definitely would not, I'm glad that you told me that either way, it's going to continue to go on. So
Yes.
thank you, that's really what I wanted to know.
Okay.
Trustee Heather?
Thank you. I was just wondering, Angie, and it's kind of like a broader thing, just about the adult sports, youth sports, really even the senior citizen programs, but dance as well. And almost you could even do like field rental, but I wonder if you ever, like you have an access to all of these like, email addresses, and if you just did something like an exit survey, like, if you have like an employee who's leaving or you have a high turnover rate in an area, like a common thing to do is an exit survey to say like, oh, what were you satisfied with? What could we improve? And I just think that we have all of their contact information already. So especially like the people who are in session right now, whether it's like adult, youth, or even field rentals, like if we just said, what were you satisfied with? What could you be improved? And that could be like a Survey Monkey style thing, just to give us more information about, if you've used our programs, why aren't you returning? What's the reason?
Yes, that's definitely something we can look at too. We are fortunate too to have a volunteer that started with us maybe about a few weeks ago. She's a master's candidate in recreation and she's changing fields. So she's been helping us do some marketing and reaching out into the community. We got access to some of the businesses from Mike Radzik, and we reached out to them specifically for our trunk or treat to collaborate. They'll come bring candy, and then we'll let them advertise. So she's helping us reach some of the daycares and things like that. And she was working on a Survey Monkey, just a general one, asking questions about our programs. What would you participate? What would you like to see? But we haven't actually sent that out yet. So maybe we can make it more targeted, as you mentioned, for each program or something.
Yeah, or just like after each class, because I know you have like a little email list. You email
Yes.
the moms or dads or parents in the class and say, you give them your information, like when Parent Watch Day is or whatever. But you could also, at the end of the session, just email out and say, like, what did you like? What didn't you like? What could be improved? Just like, I think something as simple as that, because you already have customers who want to, bring their recreation uses with their children or with themselves to Ypsilanti Township. So if we're losing some of those people, why is that?
Right, good point, thank you.
Other comments or
Madam Chair. And we were talking about, thank you for the credit cards, actually, that's a great idea. Most people do not carry cash. I'm one of the cash carriers, but a lot of people do not. So I think that would definitely help with the gate fees. I wanted to talk about basically, and it looked like field rental. It looked like obviously the activities for that have went up, which is good, basically based off of even the 2019 budget. It was 38,000. Activities so far is 43,919. So with that, I wanted to ask a question that could possibly also increase revenues, because I know there's been some concerns about money coming from the BSR2 budget into the rec center. Have any considerations been given in order to do any advertising on any of the fields? So in other words, like the softball fields, baseball fields, and that advertising monies would obviously go into the recreation budget. Just a question.
We haven't specifically looked at that yet, no.
Okay.
We haven't, so that may be something that we can consider.
Okay, all right, because I know it's been a while, like, since I was on the park commission, but in the same aspect, I know at one point in time, we had talked about it, kind of. We couldn't talk about it too much, obviously, because even though the baseball fields and what have you is in the parks, that kind of comes through the recreation part of the budget. But in the same aspect, if I remember the discussion at the time, I believe that it may be some wording that's actually needed to take place, some changes in the wording that needs to take place in order to even allow that to happen, basically in the policy. But but the reason why I wanted to bring that discussion up in particular is because I know there has been a lot of consultation in regards to money that's coming over from the BSLR2 budget into the rec center. And so with that, looking for ways to increase revenues for the rec center, so much money would not have to come over into the budget. So it's just a thought. Obviously research would need to be done, but I figured I would share that thought.
Okay, thanks.
Especially considering that the field rentals have increased too, so.
We have talked about some other target marketing also as far as our room rentals, facility rentals, maybe coming up with a specific pamphlet or brochure, if you will, to advertise and promote those programs or facilities as well, so.
Trustee Eldred?
I guess I'll bring it up, Ange, and this would be for Tim and Kurt as well, since I'm the one that brings it up every year. And I'm not really asking a question, it's just a philosophical thought. If I look at recreation specifically, and I have to bounce back and forth, but the amount that you're requesting in the budget for 2020 from the BS&R fund is just under $480,000. Would that be correct? Which would be about 61% of the revenue that you're counting. If we were to take that out of not just this fund, but every fund, and ask that those different funds just simply budget based on the revenue they know they can bring in, isn't that the more appropriate way to do it? You look like you're going to bring in about 39% from recreation. Golf, and there's a little bit different, but shouldn't we budget based on what we know we can do and not by bringing money in at the beginning? It's just a philosophical thought. Base your budget on what you know you can make, not what you're borrowing from another fund. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not asking you to answer, Angie, it's not fair to you, and I apologize. But since it was brought up, I thought I should at least say it. It's something that a board, the elected people, need to talk about later. It's not for you nor any other director to worry about. But if we're going to budget properly, shouldn't we budget every revenue-generating fund based on what we know they can bring in? And if they fall short of that goal, then we go back and add money from a BS&R type fund. That's all I've ever said.
I do. Historically, the recreation has been in general fund, and then we took them out of general fund so that we could track, and golf course, and compost site, and 14B court. So they used to they weren't all separate like they are now, but we did that so that we can track it and get an idea of the cost and revenue. But I kind of see recreation as a service to our residents of parks and recreation. And, it's important to have it. And I know, I would like to point out that you're asking for less than you did last year. That's a good news. I mean,
Yes.
and with the marketing that you plan on doing, and one of many reasons why we hired Mr. Hoffmeister is because he has a lot of experience in that, in recreation, in golf. And so I can tell that it's already making a difference, and I think, I see it as a service for our residents. And the BS&R2 is bike path, sidewalks, and recreation and roads. That's what it's for. So I do think, I would like to see us have, more activity, but philosophically, policy-wise, I see it as just one of the services to our residents. Parks and recreation is important,
Yes.
and I'm glad to see you going in the
sorry.
right direction. That's all,
Yes.
I can tell that you're really thinking about it more. So,
Yes, we want to be able to provide a quality, program for our residents. They may not be able to go other places because it's too expensive. So we want to make sure we can still provide quality. And if we didn't have that money, we may not be able to do it to that capacity. But we are going to be looking for sponsorships as well, coming up with the sponsorship package and various levels for sponsors. So that's something we're planting seeds right now, so you might not see it until that harvest starts to grow.
Yeah.
But we are looking in that direction.
Right, and as far as having ranger and, attendance, I see that as a safety, just to have someone there that has eyes on the park. And I know that you have to staff them when you rent it out, which your rentals, you're going to increase that as well as far as revenue. But in order for people to attend them, they have to pay a fee to get in. Having a credit card machine is perfect. You just hook it to a phone, right, and swipe it. I mean, there's a way to do it that makes it portable, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think that will help it go a long ways. But controlling costs, for sure. And I can tell you've addressed that, but we need to increase revenue and be competitive. But I do see it, as one board member, see recreation and parks as part of the services to our residents.
Okay.
Just to piggyback on that?
No, piggyback, yeah.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, one of the things, we got the grant to do the community center flooring, which we're still hoping that we'll be able to do at Christmas. And hopefully we're going to pick out something that's going to be absolutely gorgeous and fun. That's my goal anyways. And the grants end up costing more because we have other funds we're going to do. But one of the things to get that grant is we had to show the service. And so Corey Ripley, who works at the Recreation Community Center, just had a huge amount of data. And I was floored at the number of people, our residents. I mean, it's huge in the rentals because they keep track, not just of the rentals, but how many people participate. And, it's a lot more than I think that, I know more than I ever thought in terms of the service that it provides. But needless to say, I think that it looks like that you're doing that. I don't know if that money's mostly come from building rentals or field rentals, but I do know that's a market, and we've talked about that before. If we can just get those facilities cleaned up to where they're, don't have all that stuff hanging on the walls and everything. We probably could rent even more on that. And just the other thing on what the state parks does, they don't remove people. They actually probably are in some ways safer because instead of a person being locked down, they have people who are moving around the parks to see if you've got your, permit that you paid, for. And in the bathrooms, we might even be able to get the bathrooms open maybe even stay open longer if we didn't, if it really is what it appears is that it's probably not worth the amount of money we're putting in, but I'll wait to see those actual stats to show that.
Okay. One other thing I should mention too, that Tina Hotchkiss has done a good job in growing our art program as well. We have a lot more people coming in. It's nice to see that room full and people packed in there, so kudos to her as well with that.
Yeah, you're trying to respond to the market
Yes.
because all the schools provide a lot of the activities. YMCA provides a lot of activities, and they're no cost, so it's hard to compete. So what we do well with the adult sports, and the dance program was really a big part of it too. So I think that being aware and doing things differently now,
It makes a difference.
I think it's going to make a big difference in your revenue, and I do.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thanks. I just wanted to point out some things that I have noticed that are being done well now. So first things first, social media. Oh, you guys have really picked it up. I love to see, they just had something on there about the trunk and treat event that was
Okay.
over. The Nerf Wars, I noticed that, with the, and pretty much even the 50 and over program. You're putting the flyers out on social media. I know you put it out on your personal one, plus the recreation center one.
Yes.
And I do see that gets shared and people look at it and people are excited about it. I know people are very, very excited about trunk and treat. I shared that multiple times. So I know one of the things that was asked of you in the previous discussion was to increase the traction on social media. you have done that. I see that it's being done, and I wanted to say thank you, because I think we should not only, point out things that, okay, can be improvements, but we also should point out things that have been improved. So I wanted to make sure I pointed that out. Secondly, I know bathrooms, right? And I know it was brought up as even previous discussion in the, previously for the board, a couple of weeks ago, in regards to the bathrooms and the fact that they are, sometimes locked, right? So people can't access the bathrooms. And obviously that's because of the fact that, maybe some vandalism that happens. So here's my question. I know a while back that we talked about maybe changing some of the fixtures in order to make those fixtures more, what's the word I can say? Less prone to, vandalism, right? In order to be able to keep the bathrooms open on a longer basis. I don't know how far that discussion has went, or investigation has even went on that, but I would, would love to see something come back to the board if possible. If we can change the fixtures to make them less prone to vandalism and be able to keep the restrooms open longer. The reason why I say that is because I think that's going to also, as a result, increase your gate fees. Increase the revenue that's bringing in on the gate fees. And I know that was also brought up as a concern in order to basically quantify the park staff that works at the gates inside of the summer. So hopefully that will be an idea that can be looked at there. The other point, which I'm going to kind of circle back to, is obviously marketing has increased in order for rentals, especially field rentals. Continue to keep doing that because there is, a lack of field rentalship inside of the area, and obviously people are coming here, which is a good thing. I also would like to second Supervisor Stumbo's point, is I do believe recreation is important, and even though there may be some BSR, which Supervisor Stumbo pointed out, that is also recreation, that is given to the Recreation Department. I think the good thing about that is that we have this type of program here for our residents to take advantage of. So I just want to say thank you for everything that you're doing for the Recreation Department to continue that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? So just so that one change needs for that one line item, right?
Yes, that was the only change.
I'm sorry,
Never mind, sorry.
no?
No.
All set? Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Go work.
The next fund is 584, which is a golf course, Green Oaks, tavern license. And budget, right?
I think, we put the tavern thing in there because Kirk had asked, he's looking for consensus for the board. The application process for liquor license or tavern is very, very difficult and long, and so before he started that process, he just wanted to get consensus from the board whether or not they supported him going forward with trying to get a tavern license for the community center. Actually, it's one facility, so golf course community center. I don't know if the board had comments on that. I know he was.
The information's actually in the packet.
Yeah.
That,
He's looking for direction on that before he spends all that time.
and you did a sample application?
We did, no, that was a,
Liability.
that liability, so just to get a rough estimate on what the liability cost would be. That's what you see in the packet. I personally think it's a great idea. We need more revenue, plus everybody's doing beer and wine or beer out there anyway, so we might as well sell it.
Madam Chair, I would definitely want, I agree with going and pursuing the process. Just a clarification, again, from the last board meeting. Obviously, if this is pursued, that may, put a hindrance into trying to put summer camps back inside the recreation center. But in the same aspect, I think this would be an increase for the long-term viability of the golf course program. So, yes.
Okay.
Just a point of information, that's not necessarily true. Looking at the licensing and stuff, it's up to the state whether they, like if you're so many feet within a church or school or whatever, they can look at that and they can still give you a
Right,
license. So, yeah.
I'm a little confused by that just a little bit, though. When you have country clubs, you have other golf courses that have kids camps and they have liquor licenses, so how does that work? If this truly would be an issue with kids being around, there's all kinds of golf courses that do kids camps, do multiple 100, 200 kids at a time with a liquor license. I'm not sure how that plays into it.
It's actually in the, if you look at the regulations and stuff, and it's actually something the state can still, they can,
Right.
they just say they look at that, they want you to report that, but that doesn't mean that you won't get the license.
Okay.
So obviously, since other people have gotten them, it's, yeah.
All right, so
It might
thank you
be
for
in
that
our
clarification.
ordinance, too.
I don't,
Yeah, our ordinance may address that as well, but the kids' corner, it's been gone for a long time, and
Larry was kind enough to mention that to me because I wasn't aware of it when we had a brief conversation. So I wasn't aware they ever had a kids camp over there or kids daycare or
oh,
anything of
yeah,
that nature.
it was a big revenue generator as well at the time, but it was affordable
Daycare.
daycare for kids. But anyways, I can't remember what year we stopped at. 8 years, 9 years? It's been, Art was here. Actually, Art was here when that stopped. Yeah, and was it before you? Okay. Yes.
Good, Sam.
Or can you upgrade that tavern license if you wanted to down the road to like a, Mike, is it?
Class C.
Is that,
You can. I actually called the state the day Karen talked to me about it. It's going to be a little more costly going that route than if we were just start with Class C. They said the upgrade would be a little more expensive than if we'd had gone straight to it. The headache of liquor isn't something I want to deal with. Beer and wine would be perfectly fine at this point, just to get us some revenue moving in the right direction.
and then would the intent be to have the tavern license and then not allow people to bring alcohol onto the course then?
Once we were to have a tavern license or a liquor license, you're going to have to post on the gate, state liquor law, no personal coolers allowed. It's going to have to be policed for the first good year at least, or 6 months at a minimum with what's gone on in the past. And it's a change, I'd have to contact outings over, I'd have to contact leagues over. But it's a change that moving forward in order to make revenue, I feel would absolutely have to be made. And, will you stop every one of them coming in their bags? Absolutely not. But, it does give you the opportunity, for outings to come in, and it's not just about outings, it gives you the opportunity for the weekend to have a beverage cart, sell things on the golf course, which the tavern license will allow that to be considered the same bar, so you don't have to pay the extra fee, which is an advantage of the tavern license when I called the state. The same thing, if we're licensed and we license the community center at the same address, it's again considered one bar opposed to the community center being an opposite or being a different bar because it's not under the same license.
And that would occur under a Class C?
Tavern.
I guess my point, maybe you never want to use the full powers of a Class C?
Well, I think down the line, if you took a look at it and you wanted to get into mixed drinks and
Right.
Bloody Marys and that stuff, that could be something we could look at. But I think that to start out with, beer and wine would be the perfect example. Stay canned and
I guess my point is, would we be better off just having a Class C, but only selling beer and wine?
Yeah.
well,
And then you still have it down the road, and you don't have to pay the additional cost. You have it in your pocket, but you don't have to use all of it.
correct, but you're going to incur costs because each time you go out on the golf course with a beverage cart at that point, it's another $350 because it's considered a bar. And then when you serve it in the other building, it's considered a bar. That's another $350. So you have to make a decision based on that being $250 or $600. Then you got to add the $350 for each additional bar. Might be better to start with a tavern license and then go from there, I think.
Okay, well, I'm in favor of it, so.
Madam Chair.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, trustee Heather?
I'm also in favor, I've been in favor for having something there, but I am, just when I'm reading about the tavern, like it says canned beer and wine cooler. So can you help me understand, because to me, wine is very different than wine coolers. Just explain that first.
And again, I would look into that. I'm not a wine aficionado by any
Okay,
means or a wine
perfect.
cooler aficionado,
So
but
the last I
I mean,
checked,
as we're
you
moving
can't
forward,
buy
I will
the
have those
wine
answers for you, guaranteed.
I think it's both, it's wine and beer.
But so then how would
Not
you
just
sell the
coolers.
wine? Because you don't really, are you gonna get like Sutter Homes little?
I would
just-
prefer to stay with either small, cans. If it's not canned, I prefer not to sell it right now.
So I guess I'm just kind of on the same line as Stan, like I almost think it would give you more flexibility to have the level C license. And then just if you do, and again, go forward with this if you want to, like, I mean, I would prefer to have a good selection, because if I golfed, I would definitely want to have like craft beers and good wine.
Right, but
And that's not what I read here.
That's what I'm thinking is like
Right
Mike's
here I
Hard
read-
Lemonade is included in that, and White Claw and all this stuff that's been selling,
Okay.
you know, would be included in that list as, whether it's domestic or whether it's considered a specialty beer, I guess, or something like an IPA, I guess, would fall under the category of still being able to sell it.
Well,
I wish I was a little more into beer and stuff, but I'm not,
no,
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay. I just think,
I am sure.
I know that there's like a huge push, like, I mean, it's not just millennials, it's not. There's a huge push for craft beers and good wines. And that's not what I read here. I read Coors Light and Mike's Hard Lemonade.
But as
And
a-
so I'm not here to argue about what kind of beers
No,
or
but as
beverages
a
we all
starting
drink,
point, we can
but-
get a little more specific with it and figure out how far we can go with that type
Well,
of
the
stuff.
market will
It's-
dictate.
Right, I mean, I have a list from O&W, and I have a
but
list
there's-
from Frank, or what is it, the Daniels Company, which is Budweiser. I have their whole price list already, and I've thumbed through it and started looking through
So
it.
can I ask what other golf, like, so yes, let's follow the market, but what do other golf courses sell? What kind of beer and wine?
And like I said, the one I came from, just like I was telling you, IPAs, Mike's Hard, Coors, Bud Light, Budweiser, all basic beer to start out with, and then we
Right.
can progress from there. White Claw, that type of stuff. It's, you know, and I'll find out to what extent we can go with wine. If the ladies say, hey, this is what we want, then we bring it in.
And maybe no
you know,
one
and-
drinks wine and golf, I don't know.
No, ladies do. Would be perfect
I
for a
think they
wine,
do.
a wine and dine on, or 9 wine and dine or
That
whatever
sounds
on a
great,
Friday night.
But I'm not
It's-
gonna crack a Sutter home, I'm just saying. I'm just joking a little bit, but my whole point is just to like really think about like the quality of product that we're gonna sell and what kind of like audience and membership that sort of attracts.
Correct, and us being a public golf course, the domestic is what you're seeing most of when people bring it in.
But when you have a banquet, that might be, or an event,
Yeah.
then that would be a time to have a
Correct.
different selection, and
Which can be brought up with the person in charge of the event and say, hey, what are you looking at? I mean, if we've got these distributors and we can order what's needed,
Yeah.
then, you know, as long as it falls under our classification of what we have, whether it's a Class C, whether it's a tavern, that's definitely something to have to be looked at.
I'm sure if I come into golf every day and I tell you I want something specific, you're going to make sure I get what I want.
But only if it's canned, we can have it.
If it's reasonable, I mean, there's stuff out there that if you wanted it and nobody else ever drank it, you'd have to take a look at that, so.
Well, overall, thank you, Kirk. I think you've like done a really great job since you've been here.
Thank you.
And please,
You know,
whether it's a tavern or a Class C, just let's get it going.
sounds
Madam Chair.
good.
yes,
Yep.
Treasurer Doe.
I may have lost you, and I probably should know this answer, but if you have a Class C, it costs you more to take a card out for the year, or, so
So-
is it
so-
$350 versus $250 for the total year?
So the original license would be $600. As you put a beverage cart on the golf course, that's considered a second bar. So that's another $350, which is an additional bar. And then if you were to go into the other wing of the building and have a Class C and sell it in the community center, that's another bar, that's another $350
But
to
is that
register.
a one-time?
For the
or
year,
is it
yes.
For the year?
That's the way I understand it,
So-
yes. It'd be a one-time, so I mean, it'd be an additional $700 for 2 additional bars, basically.
But pretty much you,
That's
in
how it was
most
explained.
outings and stuff, and people when I've done some outings with people, it's pretty much that you're out in a car, and people normally don't go in the bar and buy a beer and take it outside and go with them. They normally buy it out on the thing, but that's neither here or there. But I think when you start looking at your beer and stuff, I think you're going to have a standard Budweiser, Bud Light, Strolls. You're going to have and they're going to drink it regardless. When you
Correct,
start
and-
going out and getting IPs and everything else, in my opinion, you're probably looking for trouble. I would just, I don't know.
We got to take into account the alcohol content of these beers, too. I mean, you get up higher
Well, you
than
may
about
wanna stay
6,
away from it
7%,
mainly
you're going to have
because
to
of
take a
that,
look at
too.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely a consideration.
Madam Chair, just to clarify, you can have an IPA that is lower alcohol content. I'll give you my list later, Larry.
They sell very well. That much I know.
Anyways,
So do we do Class C
So-
or do we do tavern?
I have to agree with Stan, and that Class C makes sense to get, even though you're not going to use it, but if you're going to have weddings and outings, you might want to have the choice to do it there, and I know it costs more money to do it, but I
Correct.
think it allows you to maybe have a better market for selling it.
And that's kind of where I was originally at, and then I was discussing with Karen. She said, well, you could take a look at the tavern license and see what that instilled, and we went into
No,
that.
I just pointed out since that's all he wanted to do, but no, I think we should go Class C too, because we only have so many anyway, so.
And it does come out of our
Usually
quota. I
5
did
left.
double check that. Unless we had a population of 1 million or more in the county, which we don't. It's 350 or 370 roughly.
Trustee Eldridge?
No, I mean, I think there's enough support now for Class C. I was just going to ask you what the upgrade cost is, because if it's less than $700, it makes,
That's right. Well, it goes from 250 to 600, and then it goes 350 for each additional bar. So if we're going to have one in the community center, it'd be another 700 on top of that. Plus you got the Sunday AM permit, which I had it wrote down, but it's all yours.
I think if you have the flexibility, you'll make that money up plus.
And I agree. Based on what I've found out as far as pricing on some of this stuff, I know it's and of course there's always a liability associated with it, which after talking to Karen and getting that quote, is that the highest coverage they have? And that's something I wanted to ask you about. We'll have to look into.
That was just, until we get into it, they're just giving you a range, yeah.
So I just was curious if it
They
goes
send that-
higher based on some of Angie's questions for
They
me when
send
she
that out
talked
to
with me.
someone else, and that's all based on training and all these rules, and
Correct.
so, I mean, it's a whole nother field that we have to get experts in if we're gonna do this.
Sounds good.
But you're familiar with it, and so is
Like-
Clayton, right? Both of you have done that in the past at your previous.
Correct. I've been
work.
certified. Whether I'm still certified or not, I'm not sure. I'd have to retake the test, but I was certified at
drinks.
Maple Hill.
Yeah, huh?
To serve drinks.
All right, so it appears that there's, Jimmy, are you okay with proceeding forward?
Yes.
Yep.
It'll come back to the board with all these questions. We'll have more costs and everything, and of course Doug will look at any of the insurance and make his recommendation as well. So it looks like there's support to proceed in Class C, even though we're not going to use it right now, just for
So-
future events.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to go into the budget. Kirk,
Yes.
would you like to present your budget?
Yeah, first, let me say that this year has been a great year for the golf course. I'm going to start with this year. I've been fortunate to have Robin Castleheim to lead me in the right direction. I've been fortunate to have Mike come on board, wherever you're at right here. He's doing a fantastic job of helping to give me great ideas to market the golf course. My crew was shorthanded, Tim's was shorthanded. The golf course, though, is in fantastic shape. Mike got a chance to see it the other day firsthand. And I've also been fortunate to have a great staff in the golf shop between Clayton and the other shop people I have, and my cart staff have done a great job this year. My original plan for the golf course when I came in was to try to increment by about 1,500 rounds a year. I was projected for about 26,000 rounds this year. Right now we're at 26,280. As of today, based on the numbers I was looking at, we've hit 550,000 in revenue. Last year's total was 485. So we're currently up 65,000 in revenue compared to last year's numbers. A couple other things just to kind of go over. Of the numbers I budgeted last year, which we thought were kind of overshot a little bit, we've met every one of them but merchandise by $200, with the exception of leagues. So leagues and merchandise are the only two I have not hit the number or passed at this point. We were able to take advantage of a very, very odd spring. It was really wet this spring. The golf course was really wet. And with that being said, though, our golf course drains better than any other golf course I've ever seen. And due to that fact, I just about think every month we've been up. The number of plays been up. What can I say? Cart revenue is roughly right now at 139,000, budgeted at 133,000. That was one of the concerns when I came in, that the cart revenue was way down. And then the biggest thing is, of course, we're borrowing money, and this keeps being brought up from BSR2. Back in February, $125,000 was put in the account to keep the golf course afloat. As of the end of September, we're up 9,800 without it. So out of that 125,000, we haven't used any of it.
Yay.
So I think as we go forward, we're going to have to borrow money towards the end of the year. December will slow down and November will slow down. But I think if we're down somewhere around 140, which is what I'm calculating compared to what we had asked for, with 70,000 of that being depreciation that I can't do anything about because it's been put in place, I think the golf course has had a great year. I think we're headed in the right direction. It is my goal by about 5 years to hit about 30,000 rounds. We're right on track. Again, I've had great help from Clayton. Clayton understands things. The difference this year, I think, is a lot of people are finding out about the golf course when it was raining. From a marketing standpoint, we need to market more. Even just putting a sign out by the road to show we're a golf course at this point may be very, very reasonable. Same thing with the community center. The marketing standpoint, though, is huge as far as us being able to increase revenues and continue to move forward. There's nothing I'm going to be able to do about increases in insurance and vision and dental and all of this stuff, and they're continuing to increase, but the golf course is heading in the right direction. That's where we're at for the year on the golf course.
Questions?
Madam Chair? If it's
Trustee.
on. Yeah. Kurt, thank you.
Thank you.
First things first, I just wanted to, I was looking around between the 2017 and the 2019 activity, and I wanted to point out some things on 650-000, that's the merchandise pro shop. When you came in, right at the beginning, it was like 18,927. Your activity so far in 2019 is 21,724. I know you said it's less than your expectations, but it's definitely more than what 2017 was. Same thing when you go into the sales of food and beverage, that's up. Same thing when you go into the 18 holes of golf. Actually, that has increased tremendously even from 2018 when it was 191,977. This year, your activity so far is 216,358. The same thing, actually increased activity for 9 holes of golf and even for leagues. And this is amazing. Gift cards and coupons. In 2017, it was $262. So far this year is $3,188. So I just wanted to point those out because I know that we had a discussion when you first got there, basically that you were going to try and do what you could to increase money in the golf course. What I see is that you are. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions, comment? Trustee Eldred?
Kurt, and this is for you, and Tim, I've known you longer. Despite what you may hear and what you may read, I'm not trying to close your business down. What I would say to you and any other department that generates revenue is at some point you have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet without getting money from BSR. And you've done a good job. And you mentioned this year, it looks like you're only going to need 70,000.
I would say closer to 140. I mean, the 70,000 of it's depreciation. I mean, that's.
Well, let's use the number 140.
Sure.
So if I look at your 2020 requested, it goes all the way up to 240 though. So there's an extra $100,000. That's why I always try to struggle to understand that. And that's why I look to you as the 2 experts of that. Again, I hope this golf course survives. It's been here since I've been a little kid. I hope it makes it. But you also have to understand that our job, my job, is to ask those questions that maybe people don't like to hear. Not everybody in this community is a golfer, so they question, why do we keep adding money to certain funds that don't seem to be making it on its own? Hopefully yours is headed in the right direction. But I just wanted to tell you, looking both of you eye to eye, not hoping that your golf course shuts down. I hope it lives long after I'm gone and that all of us are gone. But we have to ask those questions. Can you survive without the money coming in from a different fund? That's all. I just want to say that clearly so that you heard me say it, Tim hears me say it, and anybody in the audience that's here hears me say it.
Do you have any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to just comment that, we're up $70,000, $80,000 from 17, and that's nothing but hard work from the whole staff, Robin's help. So I think we're heading in the right direction. I don't think any of us expected us to take and wipe out a couple 100,000, 300,000 that we were donating to the golf course. Tim's put a lot of money into the improvements of the greens and everything. So a lot of that money went in is to help those greens. It's a beautiful course, and I think the gals are doing a great job. And I'm hoping this adventure with the beer and wine sales will hopefully bring us another 40 to 70,000 plus. So that'll even make us, could very well possibly made us break even this year. So thank you for your work, and keep it up.
I do have a couple things on the budget that have been noted. Tim's temporary maintenance at 50,000 was originally 60,000 before it was cut. We may want to take a serious look at making that back at 55,000 opposed to 50. And due to the old equipment, I mean, it's getting tougher and tougher with the old equipment we have, but the equipment maintenance fee might need to go a little closer to 35 instead of 30. Just things are breaking down, and without putting new equipment in place, it's making it tough. But I will say, after talking to Mike, and Mike's been around municipalities a little bit, the position that we're in as far as the amount of money going to the golf course is very similar to those of other municipalities around the country. It's not that we're that far off, which I'll let him attest to after we talked about it, but.
Well, I think what we've done is we added employees. Before, you didn't have a assistant to the pro director and a full-time assistant to the maintenance. So when you put in those costs for employees, with healthcare and all that, it's a large number. So we did increase that, that's a major change from before. Besides, I'm not sure what other golf courses do, but I also know that nationally, golf courses are having a problem.
Correct.
So, and that's been evident when they're closing, and you have to be creative and you have to work harder in order to get more people to play and get youth involved. And, you really have to kind of hustle, right, in order to get more people out there, because people who do play out there like the course. And we put money into it. We have put, but we didn't put any money into it for a very long period of time. So that's what happens to our parks. That's what happened to the golf course. When we hit a hard time, we stopped investing in infrastructure and that and put it into roads and, improvements that people can actually drive on or use with the police, fire. That's what we invested in. So now we're coming out of it a little bit, and you are doing better, but I do think you can market more, you can get more youth involved. I'm not sure if I agree you should increase the amount of money for temporary, because you didn't use what you had here.
You're welcome to stand up, Tim, and tell exactly where you're at.
The budget was cut by 10,000 2 years ago because I didn't have any employees, and this year I'll probably run out of money. I don't want to run out of money like by the end of September or October. I want to have enough money to get through November to get all the leaves picked up, make sure everything gets done for the winter.
Well, it looks like you have, as of to date, I'm not sure if this was September. You're at 38,000 and it was budgeted almost 51,000. So it looks like you have enough for this year.
I have enough for 2 more weeks, basically, I think. 2.5 weeks. That'll be out.
Because I thought you had told me that people weren't working like they used to, which is the same issue we had with the seasonal workers. It's hard.
Yeah, they're not really.
It's hard to get seasonal workers.
Yeah.
And
End up
especially,
hiring all the, retirees. They're the ones that want to work.
and they come
show up.
but you have to be at work at 5 or 4 a.m. I don't know what time, so I can see where that's kind of a challenge. But in the past, it really wasn't. You always had workers. But we're having the same challenge with seasonal workers in the parks as well.
With the irrigation system being 50 years old, we got to do, 30,
Fixes.
40 irrigation breaks a year. Equipment's getting older. You can't, with the spray tank this time, I'll need probably a greens mower and a fairway mower next year type deal. You got to, that stuff doesn't last forever. So, your maintenance costs will keep going up.
Right. But I think you should make, I could be wrong, but I thought you would make it on your temporary, but I don't know.
It'd be close.
It'll be very close, right? Yeah.
Madam Chair, I have a question, if I could.
Trustee Eldridge?
If I'm reading a couple of the expenditures for,
Look at the newest one.
it's not the number necessarily.
Oh, okay.
If I read it and it says salary for a pro shop assistant, I'm guessing that's you, Clayton. And for the greenskeeper and the operations director and the assistant greenskeeper. It says salary, so I'm guessing that truly is what that means, is salary, rather than below where it says wages. I take that as an hourly number, correct? Wages means hourly.
Bob's
and
hourly, Clayton's salaried, I believe.
Your assistant is salaried as well, Tim?
Bob's not salary.
Bob's hourly.
Bob's hourly.
It's, Stan, it's called wages temporary maintenance and temporary pro shop. Those are the two that, seasonal workers, right? Are
Clayton
those-
got,
That are on the grounds.
Okay, so Bob has not ever been salaried then? He's always been
Yes,
out?
no, he's salary.
no, he's not.
He's
hourly.
hourly and uses the
Oh,
overtime
right.
budget.
Well, we budget a salary for him.
But then he gets overtime in the summertime.
Okay, that's why I asked the question, because it says salary, but I noticed we have 4,000 for overtime for a salaried employee,
Right.
and those two didn't make sense. That's why I asked the question. So he is hourly, who gets overtime, not salary, who we're giving overtime to. Does
Correct?
that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so it's the error in the way it's written.
So-
That's all I want to make sure, that we weren't
just for-
allotting overtime for a salaried.
No, just for clarification, Stan, the overtime budget was at 12,000. When Clayton went salaried, 7,000 of it came out to go to his salary.
Sure.
And the remainder was left for Bob for overtime because he's hourly.
It's not the amount.
No, I'm
It's not
just
the amount. I'm just saying
clarifying.
salary versus hourly getting overtime. That's the only
Correct.
question I
No,
had.
I understand.
And then I guess I did have one more, and I should have asked it when,
So, Stan, I should make that language better so it's clearer?
yeah, it reflects, the way I read it, reflects Bob to be a salaried employee when he's truly not a salaried employee, and he would then be eligible for overtime being an hourly. That's the way I read it. It just didn't read that way to me, and I may be the only one that read it that way.
So it's just
We can
like
make it
hourly
clear.
permanent wages, maybe?
Yeah, we can make it clear.
And then I just had a question. I should have asked it in the previous budget, but I noticed that both your salaries and the director in recreation went up 3%, but your assistants only went up 2.5%. I was just wondering why they didn't go up 3% as well.
I don't know.
To be consistent.
That's something.
That was just
the
a question.
That's something that's out of our hands.
Right, I mean, it's in the explanation. Prior to reading that today, I honestly didn't know that. So that's the first time I've seen it.
I don't know that.
We put in 3% for the directors and
2.5 for the assistants.
of the positions, yeah, we put in 3.
Madam Chair.
Well, I just thought we always mirrored those two salaries. That's the only reason I ask it. I'm sure Clayton works just as hard as everybody else. That's the only reason I was asking. It may sound funny, me asking for somebody to get more money. I get it. But
Hey, thanks for asking.
it just seemed fair to me to make them equal.
And that is the way we've always done them.
That is the way we've done it, but I've heard time and time again, why are we always given the same salaries? Because in the past,
Well, I'm not arguing that point, but
Okay.
how did we
All right.
differentiate between the two then?
the directors, we gave the director and,
As long as that's the way we're going to do it for every department and every employee moving forward, I guess I get it, but
and then Clayton also, when's your year end? 1 year as a full-time employee. March? Yeah, so people who were hired, we wait till after the first year, and then we evaluate them. But this is the first year we're trying to do it different, just to show that, directors more responsibility, more accountability.
Madam Chair, I just, I didn't really, I don't know. So I'm wondering how that's going to look, because we always, whenever we do our like AFSCME or Teamsters, we always do like whatever they do for everyone else. So how is that going to look moving forward?
Well, interesting is that people said to me, why do you always give everyone the same increase that we
I
give
never ever said
the
that.
union?
I'm all.
But I do think there's a difference in level of responsibility, and I was reflecting it.
Well, I'm sure there's also a level or a difference in their salaries too, reflecting their, so I personally just kind of think it's all 3% or all 2.5%. That's my opinion.
Well, and we'll do a salary resolution, that'll come back to the board for discussion as well. For every, all the non-union.
And then the other thing that Stan brought up, it's just changing the word in the 706000 to,
Hourly.
or to just make it more cohesive with the 709000. To make those two match better.
They're not this,
I know they're different, but one refers to the assistant as a salary person, and then if you move to 709, then it refers to overtime. So just maybe changing
there's two groups of people that are salary. Some salary get overtime, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Karen. We call them salary. We take their salary,
I know you
we
call
divide
them
it in.
salary, but I think they're not truly salary, because a truly salaried employee doesn't get,
Overtime.
they don't get overtime. So I think
I'm
it's
not
just
sure if this
wording.
position should,
To
be honest with you.
The definitions and all that have changed, or
Right.
not definitions, the law and all that has changed, 2 years
Like,
ago?
Teamsters are considered management. That's
Yeah.
what we have.
Anyways, those are the two lines. We can figure it out later.
Yeah, the
But-
technical.
As far as the percentage thing, that's where I'm at on that. I think everyone should be the same.
You need to go to the microphone, ma'am.
I think we all are on the same page with that piece,
We'll get better language.
but yeah.
Like
As
the
far as
legal
the
language.
percentage of increase, I personally believe we should just keep it all
And
3 or 2.5 for everyone.
Okay, Tim's assistant does not have any supervisory experience. He does not meet the qualifications for a true salaried employee. Clayton does. Clayton supervises seasonals. I mean, his responsibility is a little bit different than Bob's. So Bob is truly an hourly employee entitled to overtime.
Yeah, I understand. So then.
he works 40 hours during the winter.
Yes.
Yeah. So then in 706, it should just not say salary.
Could use wages, annual wages.
Yeah. Because I know your intent of it, but
Yeah, that's fine.
that's not what it means.
Madam, sorry. Annual, I'm sorry. Yeah. Madam Chair?
We can get that clarified. Yes.
Actually want to go on a whole different subject. Back to your need for marketing and signage. Did you have any ideas in regards to where it is that you would want to put the signage at? Like, for instance, maybe over 94? I mean, I don't know. I mean, because, there's a big sign there.
Even just a sign in front of the community center showing that
Okay.
it's a golf course. I mean,
Right.
and it is out of the way, and I've seen where Stan even agrees it's out of the way, and a lot of people don't know what's there.
Okay.
And that's going to be part of the marketing, and Mike's got some great ideas with some stuff we're looking at doing. In regard to maybe doing some coupons of some type and sending them out to the township residents, and whether it's with a tax bill or whether it's with a yucca bill, if they'd allow us to do that, or something of that nature, and, just to kind of continue to promote things along.
Question, I don't even know if any of the, I'm not sure, if any of our area schools, do they have golf leagues, and do they use, if they do they use Green Oaks for the golf leagues?
And that's something we could look into. I'm not sure where, for instance, where Belleville plays or where any of these other
Yeah, I know
schools play.
Belleville has one.
Oh,
Yeah.
and I know they have a golf team.
Yeah.
So, that's a winter project we could look into. To get them to sway and say, hey, we're going to come to your golf course opposed to another one, a little tougher without a range, that plays into it.
Okay.
A lot of golf teams are going to want a range if they're going to have a home golf course, so that's going to play into that factor. Not to say we couldn't get a team to come over if, for instance, if Ypsilanti Schools needed a place for a golf team, if they have one, I'm not sure if they do. But I've experienced that at my other golf course I was at Maple Hill. Kind of have to watch out for leagues though and work their schedule around leagues, which becomes a little complicated come April. So, if they're usually early enough and say they play at 3:15 and they can get out and your leagues don't go till 4 that day, you can get away with it maybe, but when we have leagues that go at 3 o'clock and we have a league that goes at 3:30 off both sides, it becomes an issue.
Okay, so yeah, you would definitely need to coordinate that if works
Correct.
with your schedule. Okay, all right, so keep, basically, and one more thing I wanted to say about marketing. Do you do any marketing? I know Marriott has their own golf course, I got it. But the point is, do you do any marketing even basically with, inside of any of the hotel? Like, I guess they have, like the brochures inside a hotel that basically says, hey, you can, go here or look at this or take a venture here. I don't know. Does the golf course does any marketing with those?
I haven't looked into that. I mean, the first year I was here, I had looked into the Ann Arbor Convention Bureau.
Yeah.
Put a flyer together, never saw one for the whole summer. Spent some time, put some things together for a skating thing, never saw one. That is why I chose not to rejoin the Ann Arbor Convention Bureau. I saw nothing coming out of it for the golf course.
You mean the chamber? Was it the chamber?
Might be the chamber. I just know it as the Ann Arbor Convention Bureau.
Convention Bureau, getting like
It was
the
UA,
flyers and all
yeah.
those, yeah.
Spent
That's different
seven.
than the hotels.
I think we spent about $550 on an ad with them, had misspellings, the literature was bad, called them up, they gave us a free one last year to make up for it, and then I just decided this year not to spend the money on marketing when we put in a fountain, moved some money around the budget, try to find the money in a budget for the fountain. So I tried to use the funds best where they were suited. The marketing, though, definitely something that has to be explored. Clayton actually does a great job with social media for me. He does Facebook, and he does a little bit of, not Twitter, but Instagram. Comes up with some great pictures. I'm not seeing the numbers go up on Facebook the way I'd like to see them, but it's getting a little bit of exposure that way. Groupon sales, another great way to promote the course during dead times. Sales were down a little bit. I've got some regulars, though, that have kind of converted over at this point, so that would explain some of the sales being down. But I'm going to have to take a look at Groupon next year. I mean, last year we made 13. This year we'll make probably close to 11, so it's trending down. But that's because they've changed their policy. Basically, if somebody buys a Groupon, they have till October 31st to use it. If they don't use it by October 31st, they give them a 14-day window to spend the money from our golf course someplace else. And then you're not paid unless they're redeemed now. So back when we made $26,000, people buy them, we got paid. Now we don't. So I had a major problem with that when I talked to Groupon. I was not pleased with it. I said, so you're telling me if a company spends $100,000 with you and 20% are unredeemed, they're losing $20,000. And the guys are, well, yeah, that's basically how it works out. And I said, you guys really might want to take a look at that because they're basically leveraging your business to make Groupon look better.
And just one more question. I know we don't have the a lot of the automobile manufacturers anymore as much as we did. We do have some, but not as big and large as they used to be. So the question is, we do have hospitals, right? Whether that's St. Joe's or U of M. And basically within some of the things that are offered for employees, maybe recommending Green Oaks Golf Course. Only reason I say that is because, like, with my personal employer, we get Lifetime Fitness, and that's how I use it. But in the same aspect, that's just maybe something that can help with marketing and also a little revenue. So just throwing out ideas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Stan?
Kurt, before you got here, we talked about a sign out front, and I still believe it's the right thing to do.
Electronic?
Yep. I still believe it's the right thing to do, and I would encourage us as a board to look at it and take it out of a different budget aside from golf or recreation. Put it in front of the building. How many times people drive past and they see a golf course, but they don't understand what prices may be?
Or running a
Drive by the
special.
recreations or the community center. They don't know what programs are offered. Most people aren't going to stop. They're going to drive by. However, if you have that sign there, not only can you promote those two entities, but you can promote your leagues across the street on those softball fields. You have tennis courts. You can also promote information township-wide. Because if I'm a resident that lives on the north side and I never happen to make it to the south side and go by the law enforcement center where we have a digital sign, I never see any of those programs that the township offers. I never see them. We put one on the north side of town. Now we, as a board, have covered both sides of town and we're promoting those businesses. I would put it out front. could certainly ask, I hate to send
I'd
more people to
actually,
Mike.
I'd mentioned that to Mike and I'd mentioned that to Angie.
Well, Mike
So, I
Bradley
mean,
helped get that one started out in front of the LEC, and he's a great resource to get you on the road. And I mentioned it to Mike earlier. I think a sign out front, LED,
would be fantastic.
you know, if we're going to market, let's market it the right way.
Thank you.
Yes.
I concur with Stan. I think that's a great idea. And I was thinking too, I'm not sure if we market to Canton. I know they sure market to, I mean, we get their stuff in the mail, but I think that they're so close, like we're right on the border of Van Buren Township and Canton, and if there's any way you can do it. And I'm always thinking, can we get something out on Holmes Road, out on Holmes and on Michigan Ave, because that's where, you're close to and people travel. But anyways, that's aside. I just wanted to point out too that, the WCC, maybe we could focus with that group, because they have huge thousands of numbers of plumbers and pipe. There's certain conferences coming in that are at WCC, and that's right down the road. So maybe we could hook up and figure out which one that Ann Arbor Convention Bureau is specifically at Washtenaw Community College, or even Eastern, I think is really close, that we could maybe advertise it. I do think the idea, we've got 3 brand-new hotels, or soon to be, in Ypsilanti Township, and I think we should at least be able to get a flyer for golf.
Flyer in
and
the
I think
hotels.
different folks here got connections or know people that, own or operate those places, so maybe we could get a flyer for next year in there, maybe even, yeah. How about that? And then finally, I just wanted to point out that with the depreciation, it's really a cash flow issue. It's not cash. And even though we're required on the books to keep that, so if you take that out, even though that's in there so that you can buy new equipment, as it depreciates, you're really looking at $70,000 this year, and I think that, hats off to you guys.
Right, and I mean, if we're able to, somewhere around 40, 50,000 in revenue with a liquor license, that'll cut into it even more.
Yes.
I mean, that's the number I'm looking at, and hopefully moving forward, that's what we can do. So thank you very much.
Something else that we had talked about is doing a capital improvement plan, like a 5-year capital improvement plan, so we can actually start budgeting for them, I don't think we've,
That and equipment,
well, yeah, that's capital.
yeah. Well, I don't always think of capital, and I could be wrong. I think of buildings, but maybe, yeah.
For instance, there's
Capital
stuff that I had put down, including the bridge
expenditures, yeah.
on 6 is going to need to be repaired soon. There's a walking bridge on 6.
Well, I don't want them all now, but I'm just saying that
Well, I had listed them all when I turned in the budget.
We should look at-
So some of that stuff's on there.
and, first need, first year, second year, how to, capital improvement plan, that's what you call it.
Sure.
All right. Court? 14B. Thank you.
Good evening. I just want to step back a little bit and go back to a topic last time we were here with the Michigan Indigent Defense. That started in September, and we're about 6 weeks into it, and that's been going phenomenally well. This transition from our previous indigent defense to the County Public Defender's Office is going very well and very smoothly, and it's working out very well for the users of the court, so I appreciate that. As to our budget, as you can see, our revenues are continuing to decline. That's mostly in part due to the previous year, we were about 25% down from inflow from tickets and cases being filed by the Sheriff's Department, State Police. This year to date, we're about 10% down. So those impact us pretty significantly. Our civil filings are up a little bit, but pretty much staying flat. And those aren't really huge revenue generators for us. On the expenditure side, I think we're staying fairly flat on things that we have control over. As the golf course mentioned, the personnel costs are what they are, and they continue to rise. But as far as what we're expending for supplies and things of that nature, we're trying to keep that as flat as possible. If there's any questions on anything we have going on at the court, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions
I just had a comment.
from Clerk Rowe?
Just my overall comment is where I stay at is, I know that you got to transfer in from fund balance, and I know it appears that a lot of that's for operations, and I don't know how long that you can anyways, I'd like to see a plan for what we're going to do about, about that. And I know the revenues are down, and I'm not sure we're going to have a plan to have them write more tickets. I don't think that could be in the plan. So anyways, a plan internally on how we're going to operate long-term so that we're not running $129,000, over revenue.
Well, I mean, the problem is it all comes down to revenue. I mean, our expenditures are what they are. We run, as far as personnel goes, we run about as tightly as we can run the court. We did lose a grant-funded probation officer that we split with 15th District Court for the last, as long as I've been here, so the last decade or so. We've had that shared with 15th District Court. We've lost that. We are in the process of replacing that with what will be a full-time employee to ourselves, which will be a benefit to us because we'll have more supervision, also take a little bit of the work off of the probation department that has been existing up until this point. We were sharing one person with two courts, so we weren't getting the full benefit of an entire probation officer while the number of people on probation continues to be there, and they definitely need more assistance there. So, it all comes down to really, as far as, what comes out of the fund budget and what doesn't, or general fund rather, is revenues, and that's all dependent primarily on what we're getting from the Sheriff's Department and State Police.
Madam Chair.
Yes, trustee.
I know that it kind of, after reading the police report, we always get like a monthly report, and so I know like this is just 1 month, so you can't base anything
Sure.
off of 1 month. But I do know specifically in this report that our tickets for drunk driving was up like 44%, which is not something we want, but also
Right.
I'm interested in why that happened, if there was like more patrolling around or just why the overall number in tickets increased. But I mean, for the sake of safety as well as your budget.
Right. Well,
Hopefully that continues.
We had a situation a number of years ago where there were very, very, very few drunk driving arrests in the township, and that's been progressing to move up and up and up. As to why that would spike in one given month over another, you'd have to ask the Sheriff's Department. I don't know.
I'm blaming it on football.
And of course, we won't see those cases for 2 or 3 months. They may make the arrest in September, for example, and we won't see, because of the need to do lab work and things like that, and the prosecutor's workflow, they won't file the actual case with us for a few months. So where you may see an arrest in September, we may actually have the person in court the very first time in December or so, and that case may not resolve itself until, for a couple months after that, depending on, whether a person takes it to trial and things of that nature. They can stretch out beyond that before we see any revenue from that arrest, if we see any, because the person, of course, could be found not guilty as well.
And just one other question for you, I guess. It's about your note, which I completely understand, but have you ever had any, or has anyone from the 14B court had any conversation with, like Sheriff Clayton about, like budgeting and how all that's going to look?
As far as what they're bringing into us?
Yeah.
Well, we've had discussions in the past with the lieutenant locally here. I've never, gone up above that to Sheriff Clayton. I've just spoken with Lieutenant Morocco, who's here previously, and we don't know. I don't believe anyway. Do we know who our permanent lieutenant is right now?
No.
Okay, so-
But we have discussions, and as you know, you can't direct patrols to go out and write tickets. That's not, the idea is to be a safer community, which is, I'm so glad to see the drunk driving up, and speeding is an issue. It's the #1 issue from Neighborhood Watch. So they do have 3 traffic deputies that do like the drunk driving and the speeding.
I can tell you, Washtenaw County has the largest number of drug recognition experts, and at least 2 of those are allocated to Ypsilanti Township right now. So, the sheriff is very mindful of the public safety issues, and has directed the number of that patrol into Ypsilanti Township. So we do benefit from that.
And we did authorize a hiring of additional police officers, and we still don't have them yet due to, there's a lot of reasons why, and the sheriff has kept us updated on it. And we hope next year by Mike, February or maybe January, February. So this is hiring police officers is a national issue, and they changed in Ypsilanti Township to recruit. They changed the shift to make it
12 hours.
Yes, so I think that made a difference in recruitment. But it's hard to get police officers right now.
And just one last thing, and I'm so sorry, this isn't really about your budget, but I just wanted to say thank you to Mike Rasnick and Doug and Brenda and everyone who helped get our generator paid for, because I did read the email and I'm so thankful. So thank you, because you guys know I was a little baby about that, but.
Yeah, the sheriff is a great partner, and when we have our meetings, we do discuss a concern with speeding and safety on the road, so.
Larry's the bulldog on it,
Thanks, Larry.
truck driver.
Yeah, no, you're right, he is. Now, ordinance fines and costs, those are local ordinances,
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
so that's down significantly as well.
Yeah, and hopefully that means that the need to enforce is down, but
I think so.
I don't know.
Is that tenants, does the tenants go
It goes everything from, somebody having a, car with flat tires sitting in their front yard to, registration of landlord, of rental units, to blight, to, everything across the board on all of those things. I can get you, I don't have off the top of my head the number of cases that have been filed, because revenue doesn't necessarily match the number of cases. It also comes down to, how successful we've been at collecting and getting payment on those as well. And a number of those cases, frankly, get dismissed when they come before me because a person's come into compliance. So they may write a ticket after they've posted and done everything else they've done. But the ordinance officer may have talked to the person and determined that, okay, a financial penalty is not warranted. So a ticket may come through the court where we get no revenue at all because the ticket gets dismissed at hearing.
Yeah.
Because the person's come into compliance, so.
And we talked about that at one of our meetings, so our goal has always been compliance, but
Yeah.
some of the repeat offenders, it was discussed that we should just go straight to tickets. Because we post a notice, we give them so many days, and we go back out, and
Right.
By the time they get to you, they send them a million, they've been out there a lot.
yeah.
Correct.
So it's a way that is real, it's,
So the frequent flyers, I believe it was suggested that we go right to tickets.
Yeah,
So-
certainly.
There's some people
yeah.
that, like, I remember with the lawn, they used to say, well, it's cheaper for the township to mow it than for us to hire someone.
Right.
So we got to watch. That's not the business we want to go in. Our goal is compliance. I think you've done everything you can with collections. You can pay tickets electronically. I mean, there's a lot of,
Yeah, we've continued to work on the customer service side of things. We don't have anything new on that end coming up this year, but we have keeping our eye out for opportunities. The next thing that I think that we will be seeing is, along those lines, is text directly to defendants to notify them of court dates. We give them paper notices, we mail things to them, but that's not how people function in this world right now. So there's services out there for texting directly to defendants. Now, of course, they have to consent to us, utilizing that for them, but I think that'd be sort of the next customer service push we'll have, is looking at that. And that just makes the system that much more efficient. It cuts down on arrests through the sheriff's department if it works, of course, and I think it will. You have fewer people missing court dates, and so they don't have to issue warrants for them, and it cuts down on work for the court staff, cuts down on work for the sheriff's department, things like that. But that's something that, once I get a better picture of what that looks like, I would be bringing it back to the board.
and I know you also set up payments for those who.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's,
Yeah, we're continuing mindful of indigency and inability to pay and things like that. So, I mean, we're working with people as best they can work with us to get things paid.
The one for public defender, I was going to ask the board, we had moved the prosecutors out of this budget into the general fund, and now that we have a contract with Washington County, and they have like 3 attorneys, right?
Well, yeah.
Available.
Yeah, we have one attorney assigned here, but they have their rights. I mean, for example, Mike Gaddy's assigned here, but he was on vacation, and, before Mark Hamilton couldn't go on vacation unless the judge was on vacation.
Right.
They just brought somebody else in. So, yeah, I mean, we have the resources of their entire office, but, yeah, ultimately we'll have 1.5 attorneys out here most of the time for both of the courtrooms, plus interns and investigators and things of that nature.
Right, and this is another budget that was one time just in general fund, and we split it out. And when we split it out, there was not the issues with revenue and expenditures like there is now, but in order to track it, like we did the other one. But if it's okay, if everyone agrees to move the attorney fees criminal out into the general fund, like we did the prosecutor, so local government, well, this is our court. Financially, we're obligated to the court, but we would have to pay for prosecutors and public defenders. If we didn't have a court, is that true?
Well, I mean, if
I
you-
know prosecutors for sure.
right. Yeah, if you had local ordinance prosecution, you would still have your own prosecutor, but yeah, I mean, if it was a county court, it'd be the county public defender regardless. But that being said, I mean, the Michigan Indigent Defense Statute really is really pushing towards that, where, you know, the local funding
Local
unit
municipality is
are be
funding.
taking responsibility for it, including, you know, payment of conflict counsel and things of that nature. We've contracted that service off to the public defender and essentially Washtenaw County as well, so we're not going to be involved in, you know, having bills paid out of the, you know, Township Treasurer's Department or wherever that may come from, would have come from. It'll be handled by the county. So, yeah, that all sort of makes sense, is to move that back into general fund, because it doesn't really have much of anything to do with the court.
Like we do the prosecutors. We'd have prosecutors and public defenders in the general fund,
Point of clarification.
under
What-
due process.
Yeah, what line items are we talking about? I'm sorry. It was just,
801007.
okay, thank you. 801, thank you very much.
I think that's a good idea. And plus, I know one of the things that drove me crazy when I was on the county commission, the amount of money that was spent on prosecution versus public defense, it was wrong. So I think that's another way, is just to see what you're spending on the one versus the other.
Well,
So
I think
that's a good idea.
It's indigent fund. Wait, did I say that correctly?
Indigent defense, yeah. And that's, you
So
know,
that's different than the county public defender's office, right?
well, no, but it's all
It's all the
indigent
same.
defense. The county public defender would only be representing indigent individuals as well.
You're talking about bringing the public defense fund and putting it in the general fund.
Yeah, yeah, that's the same thing, yeah. Yeah. And that, you know, of course, is our obligation on that is capped under the grants program they have now, so it'll only go up the CPI every year anyway.
Madam Chair.
And we have to sign the contract, I'm
You're
sorry.
fine.
So we, yeah, like, the
We've signed-
municipality signs all the grants, all the contracts, so we administer it all. It's really our court. Yes.
I would just say that that would be fine with me. And I'm sorry, Mark, that I got hung up on my emails and the DUIs and the generator. But my
Oh, no, you're
question
fine.
about your note was really about the security, because I know last year, I think it was last year, we did a bunch of improvements to the court, not only to make it, I believe, ADA compliant, but we added like a metal detector and stuff like that. So what other expenditures do you foresee having there?
Yeah. So we didn't add any screening equipment. We've not done that yet. That's still a part of the process, and that'll be something I'll be bringing back to the board as a separate item.
Okay.
But yeah, that is definitely something that we're looking at. I appreciate you bringing that up. That was part of one of the things that we wanted to discuss tonight and give you sort of a heads up on. We've had the state court administrator has a security expert. They came down and did an audit through our building. I've generated a draft report. I've got it back to review for errors and submit back to him. Once I get the final report back, I'll submit it to the supervisor's office, and we'll kind of proceed from there. But that's definitely will be something that'll be coming up.
Thank you.
Madam,
A big part of that discussion is also, do you want it to cover both buildings? So when you enter, you have to go through this. So, you know, that's the discussion we'll have at the board level,
Yeah.
which there has been a few people, because you can carry a gun in the Civic Center side, but not in the 14B court side. Yes.
thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, back on a couple of things. I know one thing that Trustee Gerald Rowe brought up is DUIs. And I noticed that on that report, it also talked about driving while impaired, which impaired means not just alcohol. It means, it actually talks about it inside the report. It also can mean other types of drugs. That's in there too.
Yeah,
It
there's,
talked about it
yeah,
inside
you
the
can be
report.
intoxicated, whether it's alcohol or
Right,
illicit
right.
drugs, or even legal drugs used improperly.
Even legal drugs now, yeah. Okay, so my question was, I wanted to go back into the ordinance fines and costs, actually. And I know no one wants to, put ordinance fines or costs on people or individuals who can't afford it. I know Supervisor Stumbo talked about frequent flyers. And I really wanted to bring this up because of some issues that's been going on specifically in the neighborhoods I live in, which is West Willow, as it relates to some people who may be frequent flyers in regards to not tiring into the ordinance, especially as it relates to things that cause blight and maybe things that cause vermin on top of that, because that's what one of the things we have been dealing with in our neighborhood. So with that, I kind of, again, people who can't afford it, that's totally different in regards to, they may need, assistance in order to try and come in compliance. And that's a different thing than folks that's abusing the system. And this can be across the board, but when we're, dealing with issues related to vermin, I think we have to be very careful in regards to trying to make sure that we're not crossing the line between folks that are abusing the system. Okay, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then that comes back to the ordinance enforcement department and what they bring to the court. I mean,
Yeah.
I get information that they bring to me, and when they indicate to me that somebody's gotten into compliance, I don't know what they've done to get into compliance and things of that nature. But certainly, certainly if there was an issue that they brought to our attention, we would address it appropriately.
Right, and I know also, basically, we, if I remember, going back through budget 2 weeks ago, we were actually looking to add at least some more part-time individuals to the ordinance department. So that, I think, will help. I did have a question in regards to 605-002. It looked like it, and that's fines and forfeits. It could be a forfeit here. It's a negative $210. Is that a forfeit?
Yeah, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. Which one are you looking at?
It's actually,
forfeitures?
it's line 605-002.
002?
Yeah.
It goes from 01 to 03.
This is the,
Yeah,
Okay, can I see that?
yeah.
That's a closed out line item. I don't know why anything's on there because there's a zero budgeted, zero involved in
okay.
there. So I'm guessing there's some accounting error that caused that to be there.
Okay.
But the line item's not something that we're using.
Okay, thank you. And then it was only one more question I had, and this actually you got to flip a couple pages. It's actually on equipment, and that one is 977000. It looks like it's budgeted, at least even in 2020, for $6,500. In fact, it's been budgeted for that even last year. But in the same aspect, the activity on that so far this year is only $1,249. So that was just a general question.
That's what we budgeted our computers out of that line
Okay.
item, and we've just I had a need to replace computers, fortunately. So
Okay.
as we as we get that as we get to the need to utilize that, we will be.
Okay, so in other words, it's basically for adding computers as need be, right?
Yeah, as they obsolete and
Okay.
need to be replaced.
Well,
Yes.
the line item says it's cost to purchase new equipment every 5-year cycle that you do that. So it
Okay.
explains, yeah.
Okay, I was just
Yep.
curious.
So that's primarily what would come out of there is computers on a rolling basis.
Okay, all right, thank you. That
We-
answers that question.
We contract with the county, and they administer our computers and,
Right, yeah, we own the equipment, but they take care of them and provide our broadband and provide our storage and provide our email and internet service and everything like that. Thank you.
yeah, I try to get them to pay for the equipment because we're paying them to oversee the, like they upgrade it and come out and train people if they need it, right?
Yeah, correct, yep.
Yeah. So, but they said no. But
Madam Chair,
yes.
yeah, just a quick question, kind of along the lines of what Trustee Rowe was mentioning about security. I know that they've done an assessment and you'll bring that back and we'll see what comes out of that. But are you aware or have you looked at any potential grants that could help offset some of that cost of security?
We've looked into it a number of times. Most of the grants that are available are law enforcement grants. So the sheriff were able to, the sheriff's department's not here anymore. When they were here, we probably could have gotten something because it would have been tied into their use of our building here. But there's, and I've checked with our court administrators. There's a municipal insurance fund that we don't participate in that does some grant providing. So there's, there's avenues out there. We just don't qualify for them. Last I checked. I'll continue to look, though.
All right, thank you.
Good point. All right, any other questions of Mark?
All right. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. All right, hydro, real quick. It does look like we're going to have to call another meeting just to get through the rest of them.
Madam Chair. Sorry, I'll hold it.
Can you remember?
Yeah.
Mike?
Good evening. For the 2019 hydro budget, revenue is up at this point, about 25%. Our costs are down. The big change in this year is my position was split from over hydro and started to do some of the safety work in HR. And in that split, we also created a new full-time operator position to maintain the O&M of the hydro. So it's been working out really well. So for 2020, I don't really foresee any major changes. Some big compliance stuff that's coming out is our 5-year inspection report again and replacement of a PLC, which is like the brain for the generators. So that thing is about 30-some years old. They don't make them anymore. So if that were to fail, we would be in downtime. So want to get that upgraded. So pretty straightforward and simple. I try to keep that. Save the best for last. No, that's not always true.
Thank you, Michael. Are there questions for Mike?
Madam Chair.
The transfer in from the general fund it's explained, the dollars that we sent to DTE when we negotiated the contract years ago, and they're
Small,
paying
yeah.
us, we have about $800,000 in that fund.
Give or take, yeah. Yeah, there's a percentage of the gross revenue that we had earned. It's, in a sense, an insurance policy for them. So if we were to forfeit the contract, they would get that balance.
And they wanted to guarantee that we invested
Right.
capital, which we do into our hydro, so.
I mean, we're eligible for next payment in January, so we're in a good shape.
My point of telling you that is that it's transfer in from general fund, but it's actually revenue from the hydro station. Those are our dollars that we set aside.
They were escrow dollars, as Mike said, and now they're being released about 80,000 plus per year for at least 9 more years. We got our first payment last January, and we'll get the second payment, the same amount. It was down, percentage-wise, so the last payment in the last year will be the same as the first payment was.
For the most part, minus any interest, and it's been getting a little bit of interest, so that you'll see a payment a little bit higher than
Last year.
the last payment.
2,000.
Yeah.
So that's where that is from. And then one of the items that has kind of popped up was this shoreline restoration, which is part of the hydro inspection, is that correct?
So this year we did a cost opinion report for Ford Lake Park on 2 sites that have some shoreline instability. And part of the dam's license agreement is every 5-6 years we have to do a survey of all the shorelines around the lake. And on the township property that we own and operate and manage, we need to show due diligence to help reduce soil erosion and help protect the land around the lake from wave action. In the case of Ford Lake, one site, it's because of that clay layer we have, similar to what happened over on Grove Road. That water is saturated and it started to slide closer to the shoreline. Site 2, it's mainly because of just years of wave action with foot traffic that people have worked themselves down there, and now it's to a point where it's just all eaten into the shoreline. Both sites have potential depending on how the township wants to proceed, and I haven't sat down with the supervisor to share and go over the port report to see how they want to plan for the future. So this is something, we've done a similar project, it was a shoreline improvement stabilization in North Hydro Park years ago. This would be the same kind of context that we have this obligation to help protect the environment.
It's about $500,000.
Yeah, it was substantial,
Yeah.
yeah. Not saying it all has to be done at once, we
I
could
know,
phase in.
but,
Yeah,
yeah, that was a shocking number, but I know that we have to do it as part of.
right. The one that's closer to, would be the north side or by the harbor, or the apartments, over by where the soccer field is. That one there would be more important to me because it is getting worse. It's, I mean, it starts at the top and it's sliding down, and that's a lot of material.
So we might have to do that. Well, we're going to take a small break before the regular meeting. Is that okay with everyone?
Can I just ask my?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I will forget if it's too long. But I just, so in the 705000, under the salary supervision, for this one, even though it's salary, it's the 2.5. But I didn't know if there was some other reason I wasn't understanding that. Because it should be, I would assert that they should be 3%. But I didn't know because it says 60% of salary for operations manager and the other 40% is budgeted in 101227.
And that is a major change, splitting those in there. But the increases will come back to the board under, because they're non.
Yeah, we're non-union in hydro, yeah.
Yeah.
Or none.
Yeah, that's okay. I would still like to just see it as 3, but thank you. And Mike, you do such a great job. I stopped and toured the hydro dam, and it's so cool. So if you've never been, sorry, Mike, just ask him and he'll show you around.
It's a great tour, yeah.
Just one comment real quick, Madam Chair, it would be very quickly. Basically, the amount of interest earned, which is 664001, it continues to go over your budget. So this year 6,842, and even 2018, 7,914. Your budget was 2,000. That's a good thing.
It is a great thing, and it's one of those things you never really know what the interest is going to do,
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
Yeah. And I think the other one there was miscellaneous that showed 4,000 something in it, and we were able to do a rec sale, which is our renewable energy credits that we earn, and that was from a sale that we were doing. We don't typically budget for those because I just hit and miss on those. So that's the only thing that would be abnormal.
All right. We're going to end this work session at 6:49, and we'll be back.
How are you doing?
How are you doing?